What's up, guys? Dr. Mo here, the digital nomad physician at digitalnomadphysician.com. It is middle of March 2022. I'm in Santiago de Compostela and it's going great. It's been a wonderful trip this time around. We have come back from Paris. We were in the US before that and just settling in here. Though it's two of us, and so both of us. Each of us has their own kind of preferences when it comes to travel. That is why I wanted to talk a little bit about slow travel versus traditional travel. Slow travel to me is when you go to one place and stay for a long time. You really act like the locals. You're not really doing all the touristy stuff. You're not jumping from one place to another. You're not eating out all the time. You're meeting local people. You're getting kind of integrated into the local culture. Traditional travel to me is sort of kind of the more touristy way that a lot of maybe when you talk to people who are like, oh, I can't wait to retire to travel, they sort of want to get as many country stamps on their passport as possible, see as many different destinations as possible, tourist destinations specifically. Try different foods, go to different parts of the country, take the boat, go here, take the car, go there, take the bus, take the train, take a plane, and like see as many different destinations as possible. And of course, I could care less what somebody else's preferences are. For me, what matters, what is really enjoyable is to be in one place, just to really get to know one place. For example, one of the trips I'm planning is to go to Iran. And when I go to Iran, I want to be there for at least 3 months to really get to know the place, stay in one area, make that my base so that I get to know the people, I get to know the culture there. And then sure, maybe take some weekend trips and meet some new people. What I've done here in Spain is sort of something similar. First, I stayed in Sevilla for 3 months, then I stayed in Barcelona for 3 months, and then I stayed in Santiago now for a couple of years. But I'm getting to know the local area and the local culture. And even in Barcelona and Sevilla, it wasn't quite that good because I really didn't get to know everything as well as I wanted to. I didn't know the culture, I didn't know the language, and so it took a while for me to really get integrated. So fortunately now I've kind of learned how to do that, how to integrate into a local area. For example, for me, it's really easy, and in fact, the people who are local here in Santiago who have moved here maybe a couple of years ago are like, Mo, you know more people than we do. And I was raised in Santiago, but I left and I came back, or I'm fluent Spanish speaker. But I think it's not that it's difficult to meet people like that. It's just that you have to have a plan, right? It's not difficult to meet people out and about in such a small city with a population of only 100,000 people. It wasn't difficult for me in Barcelona or Sevilla. It's just that I didn't have a plan. I wasn't really thinking about the long-term thing. So for me, short-term travel means I come to a local place, I get a long-term cell phone, so I spend usually less money. Though that's not always true these days. You can get incredible prepaid plans. I get an apartment for far less, right? So I can be in one area for 3 months, because I can actually negotiate a short-term lease with a place I find that's technically it's like, hey, we only want a 12-month lease. But because I can negotiate something and I can say, hey, look, I'll be here for 3 months and maybe I'll renew for another 3 months, or I'll renew month to month. But my plan is to stay here. I would just like to negotiate a smaller price, or I would like to negotiate a better price. So for example, if they're listing it for $500 per month for 12 months, I'm like, I'll give you 600 and I'll stay here, for 3 months, 600 per month for 3 months. And so it's a better deal for them. It's a better deal for me, because otherwise on Airbnb, I probably would have to pay 2,000, maybe even 3,000. A great example right now, Sevilla in March, April, May, that's kind of the peak season for travelers to go to Sevilla, because Sevilla is usually or traditionally very hot. The entire Andalusia region is usually kind of hot around that time. So it's peak season and everybody wants to go, so it's super expensive. I mean, we're looking at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 euros a month for not the nicest places, right? So if you're doing short-term travel and you're like, okay, I want to be in Sevilla for just 2 weeks, well, you can imagine it's going to be much more than that. We're getting that 1 month discount, and maybe for 4,000 we can get a decent place. And the reason I want a decent place and I don't want to just stay in a hotel is, again, because I'd like to get to know the culture. I'd like to be in that same area. I'd like to get to know the grocery stores, the shops, and then be able to make my own food, go to the same rock climbing gyms. And that's kind of the thing with long-term travel. You can go to the same gym, go to the same, I don't know, art institute, go to the same language institute, go to the same cafes, restaurants. For me, the rock climbing gym is a great place for me to get to know people, an incredible place for me to get to know people every single day, every single time I go to the gym, and I go 3 or 4 times per week. I meet new people that I saw before, or new people that I've never seen before, and we strike up a conversation. I have to write down their names because I'm terrible with names, but then I remember them, and then we climb together, and then I run into them here on the street in Santiago. And it was the same thing in Sevilla, and it was the same thing in Barcelona. When I climbed at the Chris Sharma gym in Barcelona, I met a lot of people. I couldn't speak to them, but there were people that I climbed with. Now, that city was huge, so it was unlikely that I was going to run into them on the street. The other thing about long-term travel is you really understand the culture and the people. So I know if you travel somewhere short term, you still get to know the people, get to know the culture, but you might interact with a little bit more of the touristy restaurants, the touristy locations, and people who are there short term. But when I'm here and I'm living, like the neighborhood I'm in is pretty much a local neighborhood. There's no tourists living here. There's no Airbnbs really anywhere here. And because I'm here long term, I get to see how people interact. I wake up in the morning, I see how they talk to each other, where they go. Like this morning, my girlfriend did a workaway project. Well, she's going to a workaway destination, and so we got up super early and we were out in the street, and everybody's going to school, and like people going to their jobs, and like that's super cool. Every time we get up early, usually here we get up around 9, but like this time we got up at 7, and so we were seeing everybody like kind of do their regular routine. And so every time we were out and about really early in the day or super late at night here for Spain, you get to really see the local flavor of people. If I'm here long term, I can also plan for things in the future. My friends might say, hey, in a month, we're all going to take a trip together to go here, or we're going to go do this, or we're going to go do that. People also embrace you a little bit more, knowing that you're going to be here long term. Or even if you're here, if this is your base and you're still traveling to Greece, you're going to Turkey. For me, if I go to Iran, my friends will know that this is my base and this is where I'm going to be, and I'm going to come back. And so it's maybe more worthwhile for them to invest in the friendship with me. When I went to Paris this time, like I never traveled this short. Usually, I guess I've gone to Vietnam, I've gone to Philippines for short periods of time, but that was in residency. I had no choice. I didn't have a lot of time. And when I went to Paris, it was just such a short amount of time. Really couldn't cook in the Airbnb. Really didn't get to know any locals. I chatted with a few people on the street, but obviously that's not the same. I didn't go to the same locations and destinations. So that's one of the things that I think is worth considering. The cost, of course, is huge. Obviously, I want to really focus on the cost big time, because it really adds up when you have to take so many flights, so many trains, and most of the time you're not going to be able to find a good deal except for Airbnb and hotels. And unless you're traveling in the off season, and even in the off season, you're paying multiple rates above what you normally would pay. The third thing for me, so kind of the culture, getting to know people, making friends, and the financial aspect, the third thing for me is being able to work, right? So if I'm here and I can volunteer at a local place, or if I'm here and I can do my kind of virtual clinic that I do online with my patients, whatever, I'm here at home working, or I'm at a cafe working, I'm at the library working, I still feel like part of the culture, because when I go meet up with my friends, I'm like, oh, I just finished work, it was good, it was a good feeling, and they tell me about their work and how it was this, how it was that. I have a buddy who owns his own catering business, so he'll tell me like, yeah, I was super busy, we had a bunch of doctors, 500 doctors who came in, and so we had to cater for them. My other buddy, he's a guitarist in a band, and he's like, oh, it's like super busy right now, it's like, this was a big festival here, and so it was like a lot of people came into Santiago, and so he had to play at a bunch of festivals. Another buddy of mine is in IT, and another friend of mine who's a girl, she is in marketing. So all of them kind of just tell us, or we chat about the job and what it was like throughout the day, and then you get together, and you rock climb, or you get together and have drinks. So it's sort of fun because you feel like you're part of the crew here, you're part of the team, but you can also do your work. Like I don't feel as much as like this is a vacation for me and then I go away and go do something else. So like I'm on vacation in Paris for a week, I'm on vacation in Amsterdam for a week. I actually feel like I'm living there, I'm working there, I'm part of the I don't know, like the stain of the culture, I'm the color of the culture, whatever you want to call it. Like I am part of it. And when I do that, when I work, when I stay in a place long term and I actually work, like I have my own schedule, it feels nice. I feel like I'm in a rhythm and I feel more connected to the people. And it's nice for me because I don't feel interrupted. I don't feel like, oh, I leave my full-time job, in San Diego or in California or in Portland, Oregon or wherever, and then I have to go back to it, right? I go to take this little vacation, I have to run back to it. Instead, I sort of perpetually travel. And these days, of course, with telemedicine, with healthcare consulting, with, ghostwriting and all this other stuff in healthcare that you can do as a physician, there are so many wonderful options. So with that said, guys, that's it. That's really what I wanted to highlight about short-term travel versus long-term travel. There are some logistics. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid of language. Everybody's afraid of the finances and how do you find places and this stuff. And I think that's the fun of it. To me, that's the excitement. If anything, just relying on Airbnb, I don't know. I haven't always found the nicest places. Sometimes you go there and you're like, oh, this place is dope, and I'm going to be here for a week. If you guys have any questions, email me drmo@digitalnomadphysician.com or check out the website at digitalnomadphysician.com. Take care.